Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kaustubha. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York City, Kaustubha Das. Welcome to the show, and welcome to Makeover Monday. Every Monday, we have a thing where we go through what I want to correct, what I want to upgrade, what I want to make better this week. And, we start off sometimes with lofty ideas, and day by day, we chip away at them, and by the end of the week, we either feel good or feel really lousy. Me and Mara are feeling a little lousy. We didn't do great with our cleanse this week. We sort of screwed up. And yesterday, I have a confession. I had a 4-hour drive back from South Jersey.
You ran out of Ramayana Mahabharata?
No, I was in a bad mood. And I just listened to 90s girl bands.
What happened?
You know what? It wasn't evil. It wasn't like I was listening to the
like
Church of Satan,
like Spice Girls or something. What were you listening
to? No, I was listening to like Echo Belly and Lush, and
I don't even know.
I listened to the Cranberries and Jewel. I like Jewel. Is that crazy? I like Jewel.
Okay, you got time to make over.
Let me just share about this though. Like I said, it wasn't evil, but I know like I should be listening to the Ramayana right now. But here's the deal. Sometimes you hit a bottom in life.
It's not the worst bottom.
I'm happy. It's not the worst bottom. It's not the worst bottom, but let me share this. I felt like, you know what? Tomorrow it's Makeover Monday and I got a chance to start over. I like how we do this. Okay, you didn't live up to what you wanted to be this week. I went outside my dietary parameters.
Well, that sounds like a justification. I could apply at any time. I could just at any time say, well, maybe anyway. Monday's coming up like a few days from now, so you could. But
people do it the whole year, and they just say whatever, and they go on a bender and never come back. At least we have like some accountability Monday. I should have reached out to Mara and say, Mara, I just ate like a. You know what happens? We were having some meetings this weekend, and my wife bought a bunch of like organic snack food. I do really bad with snacking. I tend to be a snack. I just can't stop snacking. No, it's just like because it's like a nervous habit. I'm like obsessive compulsive. I just keep shoving it in my mouth all day long. I'll eat like 4 pounds of cashews gone. Stuff like that. It's not good for me. I need like here's your food. It fits in a bowl this big. That's all you get. I need like severe discipline in my eating habits.
You could do that. Some yogis too. They have like a bowl.
I know, that's it. You get the bowl. That's it. Nothing over the bowl.
Yeah.
You can fill the bowl, but that's it. Then it's over. I need stuff like that.
So that brought your consciousness.
All you can eat. Forget it. All you can eat. Watch out, people. That's when I really go down.
And that brought your consciousness down, that food, and then you started listening to the Cranberries?
I feel so. So. Yeah.
So it started with the food. So then now there's a lesson to be learned here, Raghunath.
It is. And before we get into the Bhagavatam, I got to just share.
we haven't spoken about the lesson. You just went right past the lesson.
Well, the lesson is, the lesson is, you know what I mean? We check in on Monday. We have
No,
re-accountability.
that's not the lesson. That's
what's
where you
lesson?
are because you didn't learn the lesson.
What's the lesson?
The lesson was that the food that you eat has a direct effect on your consciousness, and if you're going to be determined,
It wasn't the food; it was healthy food. It was healthy food. It was just, here's the deal: it's not just healthy food; it's how much healthy food you eat. So the senses
okay,
have to be regulated.
well, then there's your lesson.
Okay, regulate. Yeah, yes, that's a lesson.
Okay.
There's many lessons I learned this weekend. All right, Krishna Miracle. Check this out. This you can't
but
make
before
this
you
up.
say before you say this, I'm just going to warn you. You're turning me into a skeptic because you're just coming out with too many miracles. So.
Well, that's why. That's the whole point of the Krishna Miracle. When you document them, you realize how magical the world is. Listen to this one. This is unbelievable.
Okay.
You know my friend Kaylee, Lolita, Sachi's wife.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen her
Kate
in a while.
108?
Kate 108, from the guitar player of 108. I haven't seen her in a while. You know, we're old friends, but haven't seen her in a while. I wake up yesterday, and while I'm waking up, I'm dreaming me and Kaylee are having a kirtan somewhere. She sent me a text message that said, hey, we should have a kirtan on Halloween. It's a full moon or something like that.
Like later that day, 3 days later?
No, like an hour after I woke up. Is that crazy? Mara's agreeing.
That's a pretty good one.
Are you sure you're not mixing it up in your mind and it
I
works the
swear to
other
God,
way?
this
Like
is a
first you
true,
did it and then you
full-blown no, it's a full-blown Krishna miracle.
Okay.
That was
all right.
That was like a psychic Krishna miracle. Anyway, all right. Let's do this. We are in the Sweet Honey Pot, also known as the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 5, Text 17.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Start off with this little secret. Anything you want to share, Kaustubha, before we dive in?
Well, there's a lot going on this week on Patreon. We got like a lot of recovery classes. We got 5 asana classes. I think this week we begin with an Iyengar class every Monday now. Is that right, Mary?
Yeah, that's right.
Claire Weatherly.
Okay. And you're going to do a Sweet Baby Krishna.
Sweet Baby Krishna tomorrow. Yeah,
tomorrow evening. And I'm going to post up a recording of a talk that I'll give about Vedic rolls and stuff like that.
Vedic rolls?
Yeah. You know, like
a cinnamon bun?
Varnashram Dharma.
I thought it was something you were cooking. I made a Vedic roll. It's really delicious. A hot Vedic roll with butter, with coconut oil.
This was a bad food weekend for you, Raghunath. It's bleeding over into Makeover Monday.
A Vedic roll is something I have for breakfast. Okay. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudiraye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to the personality of the Godhead, Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayesh babadreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavati utamashloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service to the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Agyanatamarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuranmilitam Nena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I did listen to 2 Bhagavatam classes on the way home too. Just to fully.
You don't have to justify.
I'm I'm just thinking. I didn't listen to 90s girl music the entire ride. I had 2 Bhagavatam classes in there. Some Krishna music. I was singing loud too.
All right. Okay. I know you're actually Raghunath. I know that your consciousness is usually pretty transcendental.
Oh, it's very
more
high.
Than mine. More than
very
mine.
High. Just kidding. All right. Inspired by him only. This is text 17. I discovered what is already created by him, Narayan, under his vision as the all-pervading super soul. And I also am created by him only.
All right, why don't we get a little context here?
What's going on here?
Where are we? It's Monday. We got to get back into this, right? So we had there's a question that's being examined, and that was a question from Narada, placed to his father Brahma, the creator of the universe. And he's saying, like, it seems like you're the creator of everything, as far as I can see, as far as I can perceive. I see you, I see the creation, I see you creating it. Are you him? And Brahma is coming back and saying, no. Beyond me, beyond what you can perceive, there's the original creator, the cause of all causes. That's the name of the chapter, right, Raghu?
Cause of all causes, yes.
Cause of all causes. So he said, there's just these, let's read 4 verses today. I think 17, 18, 19, 20.
In a row?
Well, I don't, yeah, maybe, but yeah. We can talk as we go. But this verse is saying, he's saying, my son, and this is just following the verses that we just heard about Narayan, right? It was Narayan this, Narayan that, Narayan. Narayan means Lord Vishnu. And so it's saying, ultimately he's saying Lord Vishnu is behind everything. And so then, the question might be asked, well, by Narada, well, if Lord Vishnu is behind everything, like, what's your role? And he's saying, I become inspired by him. I become empowered by him to create, right? So he says, inspired by him only, I discover what is already created by him, Narayana, under his vision, like under his direction, as the all-pervading super soul. And I also am created by him only. Okay, so he's saying, you're perceiving me, and that's fine, but there's something behind me as well. And there's a lot of this in Bhagavad Gita. There's that verse where Krishna says that all things are strung upon me as pearls are strung on a thread, right? And so when we look at a string of pearls or beads or whatever, we don't see the thread, but we can infer that the thread is there. All we see is the beads, but we can understand that behind it there's something else. There's a thread tying it together.
Great analogy, Krishna.
Thank you, Krishna, for that one.
Sometimes you feel like telling Krishna, that was a really good analogy.
What is that? Seven?
Parataram nanyat kinchidastina dhananjaya Mayi sarvam midam protam
Sutre mani ganaiva.
Sutre, like on a string.
Yeah. So that's what Brahma is telling Narada here. You don't see the string, but there's a string tying all this together. I'm not the creator. I'm just the secondary creator. There's a little excerpt from the commentary we could read here. Prabhupada says, beginning from Brahma, the topmost intelligent living entity within the universe, down to the smallest ant, every living entity's intelligence is overseen by the Lord in his transcendental position as the witness of all actions. So it's being mentioned here that there's this witness of all actions, the all-pervading super soul, right? He mentioned in this verse. This is really interesting, something to think about here. You ready, Raghu?
Yeah, hit me.
The subtle presence of the Lord is felt by the intelligent person who can study the psychic effects of thinking, feeling, and willing. Okay? Thinking, feeling, and willing.
An intelligent person study the psychic effects of thinking, feeling, and willing.
Yeah. In other words, most of us just run around the world nonstop, and we think we're in control.
Check.
Right. Yeah. So we run around. We think that we're like moving things, and we're in control. We're making decisions. We're figuring things out. We're accomplishing this. We're accomplishing that. But most of us don't slow down. This is where yoga is meant to help, right? That like one sits down, one sits still. One brings their mind to their breath. One begins to observe their own mind, right? Not living as if I were the mind, but like, I'm going to watch my mind and see where it goes. And what Prabhupada is saying here is there's something subtle going on. The subtle presence of the Lord within my own body, right? The Paramatma. And the control and the that overseer has in my life, that someone could perceive it, although it's subtle. If one slows down and is contemplative, that one could study that. He says the psychic effects of thinking, feeling, and willing. how by, you were saying you're having these snack attacks, right?
Yeah.
But there's a point where you began to contemplate the snack, right? Now, if your mind would have been engaged in some other way, you would have never contemplated the snack, and therefore the next stage, the feeling stage, would have never set in.
Right.
But first you contemplated.
Starts with the thinking.
Yeah.
That's the domino. Boom.
And that's pretty much like, that's the extent of the Atma's power, is where, this is what the Vaisheshika, Prabhu was saying when he was on the show, we have the ability to place our attention somewhere, right? And so once the attention gets placed on the snack, then other forces start to take over, and the desire for that snack starts to arise. So you go from thinking to feeling.
I feel like one. I feel like those cashews.
Yeah.
I feel like some of those tamari cashews.
And then at that point, there's like a battle going on. The willing stage.
I just jumped right to willing. Oh, she bought snacks.
It was just a fast process, but you went from
like super fast
to willing.
Yeah.
And so the idea, and that willing stage, then often there's a battle between the intellect and the impulsive part of the mind, where the impulsive part of the mind is saying, yes, what are they? Tamari? Cashews?
Tamari almonds.
Tamari almonds. So the mind has been programmed to say pleasure is found in tamari almonds, right? And it's programmed that way. And you started thinking, and then the feeling set in, and boom, it's saying, get them. That's where happiness will be. And then the intellect may say.
That was Mara on my shoulder saying,
yes.
Hey, I thought we had a rule. I thought we were going to regulate our senses this weekend.
That's right. We were going to regulate it.
There's like a little Mara on my shoulder.
Yeah,
with a chef hat.
that is the buddhi, right? And it
was my buddhi.
And she's saying, hey,
what are you doing? We had a plan.
We had a plan, and that plan is for your long-term well-being, right? You're going to need to pull it together here.
Then I put on the cranberries, and she's like, what are you doing? Listen to
that
Ramiyan. Yeah. It was all over at that point.
Yeah. So he's saying that so Prabhupada's saying in this commentary that the yogi, they slow down and they study this, and through this, they begin to realize, I thought I was always in control, but actually I'm being controlled, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what's playing out here, like as I move through this creation. Well, let's come back to this, but let's continue reading here. Let's read text 18, because this is going to kind of describe the material realm that we're moving around in our situation in. Text 18.
Text 18. Sarah. You know what? That's what I do, Kaustubha. I already go to the next one. And I scroll down, so I can't see that I'm actually. The Supreme Lord is pure, spiritual form, transcendental to all material qualities. Yet, for the sake of creation of the material world and its maintenance and annihilation, he accepts through his external energy the material modes of nature called goodness, passion, and ignorance.
Yeah. So he's saying that there is, beyond what you're perceiving, Narada, you're perceiving me as a controller because with your senses, you're able to see me, and you're able to see that I have a certain level of creative power. But he's saying, but beyond your perception, there's Narayana, ultimately there's Krishna, and there's Lord Vishnu. And that Lord Vishnu is in a pure spiritual form that's transcendental to the material qualities that you're witnessing, that are perceivable through your senses. Right? He's beyond it all in a spiritual form, not subject to the laws of this world, but through his material energy. It says, yet for the sake of creation in the material world and its maintenance and annihilation, he accepts through his external energy the material modes of nature called goodness, passion, and ignorance. So he remains beyond these energies. We become controlled by those energies. We enter into this realm and become influenced by it. He's beyond its influence. And that's talked about in the next text 19.
Text 19, these three gunas, the modes of material nature, being further manifested as matter, knowledge, and activities, put the eternally transcendental living entity under the conditions of cause and effect, karma, and make them responsible for such activities. So interesting, huh?
Yeah, it's like you, and not only you, Raghunath, all of us, but you just brought up this Makeover Monday thing with the tamari almonds.
You can use me as an
Okay,
example.
okay, we're using you as Exhibit
Learn
A
from
today.
my mistakes, people. I failed. Learn from me.
We all do. But but you're Exhibit A today, Raghunath.
But you know what's interesting, Kaustubha, is like, you know, I did this whole thing about like, I will not listen to anything that's not transcendental. And the entire time I'm doing it, and I'm suffering and doing it because I know that I've made a commitment, that I'm going against that commitment. So there's a lot of pain in there and regret in there.
When
there's either the discipline. There's either like there's either discipline. I have this written down. I have a good quote here.
There's either discipline or there's suffering. Is that what you're going to say? Something like that?
Forget it.
Come on, we're going to dig deeper. I want to know this nugget that you're going to share.
The nugget. Okay, there is. Say something. It'll come.
Okay, I want to read a little bit of the excerpt to text 18, and it may come out because it's in the same. Prabhupada says, now this is 18. He says, the material modes of nature, being products of the energy of the Lord, are certainly connected with the Lord, but the connection is just like that between the master and the servants. The Supreme Lord is the controller of the material energy, whereas the living entities who are entangled in the material world are neither masters nor controllers.
I got it.
Okay, I knew.
There's either the pain of discipline or there's the pain of regret. So discipline is painful. I get that.
Okay.
But there's a pain of discipline or the pain of regret. And I was sitting with the pain of regret yesterday.
There's either the pain of discipline.
There's either the pain
or the pain of regret.
You think about that one?
Well, what if you just let go of your hang up in the first place, man, and just like, you know, you didn't have to.
Yeah, that's called the pain of regret.
You regret that too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Of course. You're saying just surrender to the uncontrolled senses and you won't regret anything. Everybody regrets.
Okay.
Everybody regrets.
And so the person that disciplines themselves doesn't regret.
No.
I think you're right about that.
Right?
Yeah.
Uncontrolled senses never leads someone to go like, that was awesome. There's always a pain. There's always
or at least
there's a pain in long-term indulgence.
Right. I agree.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. We become controlled. We think we're controlled. Well, that's what this is saying here. Saying that that here again.
Ties it all in.
The Supreme Lord is the controller of the material energy, whereas the living entities who are entangled in the material world are neither masters nor controllers. Rather, they become subordinate to or controlled by such energy. All right, I start to think about it. The next thing I know, I'm feeling and I'm willing. Factually, the Lord is eternally manifested by his internal potency or spiritual energy, just like the sun and its rays in the clear sky. But at times he creates the material energy as the sun creates a cloud in the clear sky. Like that?
Yes, that was nice.
As the sun is ever increasingly unaffected by a spot of cloud, so also the unlimited Lord is unaffected by the spot of the material energy manifests at times in the unlimited span of the Lord's rays of Brahmajyoti. So let's just look back at that analogy that was just shared. This is all called Sambandha Jnana. You know, Sambandha means understanding the relationship, right? Understanding how one thing is related to another. What is the nature of their connection? So Narada, his Sambandha Jnana wasn't quite tuned in, right? He looked at Brahma and said, you seem like the supreme God behind everything. And Brahma said, no, let me correct this. I'm one of these, I'm the marginal energy of Lord Vishnu, right? But Lord Vishnu is the originator behind everything. Being the marginal energy, I sometimes become covered by his external energy. There's the external energy, which is the material world. There's the marginal energy, which is us. We're spiritual, but we tend to become covered by the material energy. And then there's the internal potency, or Krishna himself, that energy that never becomes confused or bewildered. And so he's saying, let's get it straight. There's Krishna, or Lord Vishnu, and he creates this material realm, and he creates its covering potency. Just like the sun, its rays are always bright. It's never covered by a cloud. The sun is never covered. We get covered by the cloud, right? And so the sun can, by its own power, creates a cloud, and we become covered by that cloud. But the sun, is always unaffected. And so he's saying, let's get everything straight here. Again, text 18, the Supreme Lord is pure in spiritual form, transcendental to the material qualities, transcendental to the cloud. Yet for the sake of creation of the material, because we want to be under the cloud, because we want to try to enjoy the material world separately and therefore need to be an illusion, right? He creates that cloud for us. And it says he accepts through his external energy, the material modes of nature called goodness, passion, and ignorance. And then we enter into that illusion, and we start to become controlled by those forces. Right? That snacking energy, that's like, especially it's those salty things, because they say the salt it increases this rajasic, it increases the desire, right? Once you start in on those tamari things, right?
It's over. Mara, how did you do?
I did pretty well, but I was kind
I
of
thought you said you
through
did.
it all.
I thought you said I thought you said you did lousy. She texted me, "Oh, I did lousy." So
No,
you
I said I was miserable. I said I was miserable.
You baited me to confess
discipline.
everything to the wisdom of the sages people. Oh, Mara, I thought we were in this together with our humiliation.
Today's episode is going to be entitled Raghu and Mara's Experiments in Sense Control.
Oh, crap. Oh, Brahmana Narada, the superseer, the transcendent Lord, is beyond the perception of the material senses of the living entities because of the above-mentioned three gunas. But he is the controller of everything, including me. This is Brahma talking.
Okay, so yeah, let's just look. So these are the 4 verses we wanted to look at today, right? And here's what they're saying. Text 17 basically said that there's a true creator to whom even I'm dependent. That's what Brahma is saying to Narada. And then in 18 he says that true creator, Lord Narayan or Krishna, that he's beyond the laws that operate in this world, but he's directing it through his external energy. Right? And then 19 said that his external energy creates a field in which we, the jivas, the souls, we operate in, and where we become responsible for our own experience, right? The happiness or the suffering that goes. He creates the realm. We desire it. He creates it with his external energy, right? And we enter into it. And in that, now we can't blame our own suffering on him. We asked for it to be created, and then we went into that realm wherein the decisions that we make, we become responsible for. And that sojourn that we take, that the traveling that we do through this material world, the forms that we inhabit, the experiences that we come across, that's all based on our own karma, the decisions that we make and how we experience the results of that. Right? And then in text 20, basically what he said is that although this is imperceptible through the senses, it's real. And Brahma saying, even I'm subject to it. Right. So let's get everything straight. Yeah.
So cool, huh? Even Brahma, he's in it. He's in the world of birth and death with us.
Yeah. Even though he creates so much. We can read a little to text 19. Let's read the commentary again. And here, we can read the entire commentary to this actually.
Here.
You want to read it?
Sure. Because they are between the internal and external potencies, the eternally transcendental living entities are called the marginal potency of the Lord. Factually, the living entities are not meant to be so conditioned by the material energy, but due to their being affected by the false sense of lording it over the material energy, they come under the influence of such potency and thus come conditioned by the three gunas of material nature. They become conditioned. This external energy of the Lord covers up the pure knowledge of the living entities eternally existing within him. It's already there. The intelligence, the wisdom, the purity is already in the soul. It just gets covered over. But the covering is so constant that it appears that the conditioned soul is eternally ignorant.
It goes deep.
It goes deeper.
Yeah.
Such is the wonderful action of Maya, or illusion, or the external energy manifested as if materially produced. By the covering power of the material energy, the material scientists cannot look beyond the material causes. It's so interesting, huh?
Yeah, this gets really interesting right here, I think.
But factually, behind the material manifestation, there are abhibhuta, abhiyatma, and adidaiva actions, which are conditioned soul, which the conditioned soul in the mode of ignorance cannot even see.
Even the scientist, right?
Yeah, I can't even see them. We have no idea what's going on. The adibhuta manifestation entails repetitions of birth and death with old age and disease, and the adiyatma manifestation conditions the spirit soul, and the adidaiva manifestation is the controlling system. These are the material manifestations of cause and effect, and the sense of responsibility of the conditioned actors. They are, after all, manifestations of the conditioned state. And the human being's freedom from such a conditioned state is the highest perfectional attainment.
It's interesting, like the word adidaiva, he says the adidaiva manifestation is the controlling system. Right. So he's saying that again, beyond what we're perceiving, there's a system of control, and there are appointed controllers, and that's called the devas. Adidaivaka refers to the devas, right? That there are different beings that are empowered to control the rain, to control the sun, to control our senses and how they operate and so on. And these are the devas, the gods, you could say. And this always reminds me, like what's being said here, that there's that story. I don't think I've ever shared on the show before, but Srila Prabhupada was in Mayapur, and which is a beautiful, holy place in India, and it's kind of tropical.
Tropical, I'd say it's tropical. You can get bananas.
Yeah.
If you can get bananas, it's tropical.
It's tropical, okay.
Yeah.
And Prabhupada was on the veranda of the building that he was staying in, and he was receiving, like, he would get a daily massage. Right? Massage is how he really kept going. It's one of those important aspects of Ayurvedic massage.
Before I was into Bhakti, I never got massages.
Yeah. And do you now?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I get it. I get them. I'm not getting them daily by my wife or kids or anything.
As people get older,
Yeah.
But so he's getting his daily massage, and right near him there was like a little kind of hole in the wall, like some space between the bricks or something like that, some kind of crack or something like that. It was big enough for like a tiny little bird was building a little nest in there, but it was making a lot of noise, this little bird. It was like chirping around, and I don't know.
Yeah, those birds.
And so Srila Prabhupada was like, he just turned to his or his servant, just like kind of like shooed the bird away. And then he went back to the massage, and then a moment later the bird came back, and he shooed it away again, and returned to the massage. And after some few more minutes, the bird came back, and each time it was I think it was bringing, like, it was trying to build a nest. It was trying to bring back some twigs.
It was like right by his head or something.
Yeah, it was
disturbing.
Yeah. And so then the masseuse took like a piece of paper and rolled it up into a ball and kind of put it in real tight into that crack, so that the bird would find another place to build its nest. Then the bird came back, and the bird saw this obstacle, and it took its beak and started tugging at the the paper, trying to get it out, Now, that's us, the bird, right? It's like the bird doesn't realize that there's a higher power, right? And it thinks, I want to build my nest here. It feels, I really want to. It thinks it would be nice to build a nest there. It feels, I want to build a nest there.
Determined, it's focused. It's using positive thinking. It's using, the power of focusing your potential.
Right.
There's other forces though. There's other forces. It's not just your focus.
It doesn't realize that force is there. So even if it does, after a hard struggle, manage to pull that piece of paper out, that masseuse is just going to wad it up and put it right back in there again. So it's just unaware. And that's what Srila Prabhupada said. He pointed this out, and he said, we're like that bird. It doesn't realize that there's a higher power here.
Unseen forces just moving things.
Yeah, so that's Adidivaka. And Prabhupada saying, a scientist may have, a scientist is kind of observing the material energy, recognizing the patterns that work there, right? Recognizing that, if you take water and you bring the heat up to this degree, it starts to boil, right? If you bring the temperature down to this degree, it freezes. That's science. You can recognize these, you can create experiments to see if that's consistent, and so on. And with that knowledge, you can begin to do things and create things and so on. But there's a premise that is predominant within the modern world of science. And that is that all that can be known is within the realm of our observation. Right? And that premise, there's no scientific validity for it. Why should we accept that premise? Why should we accept the possibility that there may be things that are beyond what our senses can perceive? And it's, and if we can, and so Prabhupada saying here, let's go back into that commentary where he was, see if I can find it. The external energy of the Lord covers up the pure knowledge of the living entities eternally existing within him, but the covering is so constant that it appears that the conditioned soul is eternally ignorant. Such is the wonderful action of Maya, or the external energy manifested as if materially produced by the covering power of the material energy. The material scientist cannot look beyond the material causes. He's just like that bird, it's just saying, okay, this is nature. There's a piece of paper in my way, but it can't recognize that beyond that, there's a person that put that paper there. That's the Daivika, that's the controlling force that's imperceivable to him. So when Prabhupada says, how did he phrase it again? He said the Adidaiva manifestation is the controlling system. Can we slow down? Can we think about, our situation a bit? Can we recognize that we are being controlled? That due to following the dictation of the mind and senses, that we become controlled by this external energy? That's what yoga is all about. That's why we're trying to slow down a bit and consider these things. Right? Why we need to sit still a little bit. Why we need to observe the mind a little bit. And ultimately, of course, the most powerful form is by hearing. By hearing these texts. To kind of see the whole picture. If someone could sit down with that bird and say, "Bird, let me help you understand something." And this is why. So you need to learn how to best use your time and energy. And that's what we try to do here.
It's the fly on the window, bunga 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 bunga, trying to get out of the window.
Right. So why don't we just read these verses again, quickly
in a row?
Yeah, and maybe you read the verses and I'll read these explanations, just because it's a little tough to put all this together. And why don't you read the verses and I'll read just like a little translation of them, like a way to understand.
Inspired by, this is 17.
17. Yeah.
Inspired by him only, I discover what is already created by Narayan. Under his vision, as the all-pervading super soul, and I also am created by him only.
Okay, so Brahma says to Narada that there's a true creator, Narayan, to whom even I'm dependent.
The Supreme Lord's pure spiritual form, transcendental to all material qualities, yet for the sake of creation in the material world and its maintenance and annihilation, he accepts through his external energy the material modes of nature called goodness, passion, and ignorance.
So that creator beyond me that we're not perceiving, he's beyond the laws that operate in this world. They're actually his laws, but he directs them through his external energy.
These three modes of material nature, being further manifested as matter, knowledge, and activities, put the eternally transcendental living entity under the conditions of cause and effect and make him responsible for such activities.
So Vishnu's external energy creates a field in which we operate in and where we become responsible for our own experience.
O Brahmana Narada, the superseer, the transcendent Lord, is beyond the perception of the material senses of the living entities because of the above mentioned three gunas. But he is the controller of everyone, including me.
Although all this is imperceptible through the senses, it's all real. And Brahma saying, even I, the number one guy in the universe, right, the secondary creator, even I'm subject to it. And so, there's another premise. In other words, one may have a premise to say, like, I believe. It's a faith, right? I believe that whatever's true and real can be understood empirically, can be perceived through my senses. Now, where in the world, you can't prove that point scientifically. That's a premise that has no scientific basis, but it's a premise that a lot of the modern science has been based on. And here's another presentation coming from, many, many thousands of years ago, holding up, to this day, that's saying, no, there's a lot that's beyond you, no matter how powerful your microscope becomes or how powerful your telescope becomes or whatever other equipment that you connect your senses to, that there's something beyond that. And in one sense, we need to be a little humble and understand that we're just like that little bird, working away with our plan. But there's a lot going on behind it. But I think, people can be averse, just it's not a scientific thing, but just like psychologically averse to that idea.
Well, we want to feel like, my endeavor has a result and my action in this world does have some result, but it's not the only cause of it's not the only reason there is a particular result. There's other factors. Want to explain the 18th chapter? 5 factors of action.
Different factors of action. We can dig that up.
It's not just my work gives me a result. There's so many other factors that are going on here. There's the time, right? Let's use music, right? Suppose I'm in a punk band in the 70s. And
say you're in a girls band in the 90s.
Say I'm in a girl band in the 90s. Now, say I'm in a punk band in the 70s where no one really cared about that music. You could work really hard. You could write a great song. You could put out a great album. But the world may not be receptive to it. But that same thing happens in 1991. It's not like Green Day was the biggest band. It's not like they were the most forward-thinking, progressive musical band. They just did it at the right time when the whole world, that was very normal and acceptable, and they became very big in mainstream music. So it's not just the endeavor. It's the time, right? Yeah. It's the place that's endeavor. It's the what are the 5 factors of action? There's the time, the endeavor.
I'm trying to pull it up right now, but you didn't give me enough. I've got it. The 5 factors are the place of action.
The place of action. Okay, right. Suppose that's in a different country. If Green Day was in a different country, it might not have had the same effect. We're using the Green Day analogy.
Okay.
What else?
There's the performer.
There's the performer.
The doer.
The doer.
Yeah. There's the various senses, the karanam. There's the different kinds of endeavor, chesta. And then ultimately, there's daivam, or the there's God
There's
and
there's the
the
will
super
of
soul.
God.
Yeah.
The super, right? Like we
Yeah.
might endeavor for something, and it just might not be our karma to get it. Right?
It's
There's
a
like an X
fact.
factor. We
Yeah.
call it an X factor. Like in music, you'll say it was a great band. They wrote a great song at the right time, and still nothing happened. They got a great record company. It's still nothing happened. There's that mysterious X factor is a divine factor
Yeah.
that you can't quite figure out, encapsulate.
You know, the mind is so tricky because the mind wants to tell us. And that's why I say there can be like a psychological aversion to this idea.
Yeah.
The mind is trying to convince us that we're the center, that we're in control. But if we actually are just a little observant, we'll see that we're being controlled all the time. Now, I'll tell you how tricky. I had this experience yesterday, right? I went down, we had a kirtan in Washington Square Park. It was great. We had like over 100 people there. So I rode a bicycle down. So for me to ride a bike down, that's like about 4 miles, 4.5 miles or so.
How come I can't imagine you on a bicycle?
I don't know.
Is that crazy? I don't know.
I've been riding bicycles like a long time.
Your whole life? All right.
Well, I was my whole life. I was a bike messenger one few years there.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. And so, but you know, I don't own a bike, so I ride these city bikes, which are like this, you know,
you rent a bike. Yeah.
I could not even, well, you pay a yearly thing and you can pick up a bike in one spot and drop it off to the next spot.
That's great. Good deal.
Yeah. And so, and now they have these electric ones, which are like pedal assist, like you pedal, but it gives you a boost.
Oh, I know electric bikes. They're good.
They're good. So I'm riding an electric bike, right? And as I'm riding along, you know,
you wear a helmet? You wear a helmet?
I don't. I'm not going to carry a helmet around with me all the time.
You gotta wear a helmet, man.
Well, I'm not going to carry a helmet. Let's not get into the helmet issue right now on the show. But,
all right. If you guys think you should be wearing a helmet, please write something on the board right now. Okay, go on.
So I'm riding the bike, and you know, like on this, the idea is like you hit that pedal and boom, it's like it gives you like extra power. And if you're going up a hill, it's like you just pedal normally and you just keep going at the same speed, you know. And so I'm riding that bike, and I'm going past people that don't have an electric bike, right? And they're struggling going up the hill, and I'm just like with ease going up that hill. But my mind is telling me as I'm doing it,
you're better,
guys. I'm better than them.
These chumps.
My mind is telling me, yeah, you're better than you. Look at these struggling, you know, people. Look at how powerful I am. I'm just going right up the hill, you know. So it's crazy how the mind, how vulnerable we are to its messages. So Prabhupada saying in these commentaries, it's like we can, a scientist can have such a brain, such an intellect, such learning, may know so much more than so many other people, but that mind still may have them accepting this ridiculous premise that whatever there is that can be known through the senses, can be known empirically. And there's no sign, and they'll claim that as like a kind of like an appreciation for the validity of what real science is.
Right.
Right. But they're breaking like their own rule there, because there's no science, there's no empirical proof for that. How can you prove to me empirically that everything can be understood empirically? There's no empiric proof for that.
Its limited senses can't have unlimited knowledge. Or you can't have, what do I always say, Mara? You can't
have perfect knowledge with imperfect senses.
That's it.
Is that it?
You can't have perfect knowledge with imperfect sense. Mary, you're good. You got all this stuff stored in your brain more than I do, and I'm the one who said it. Okay, Kaustubha, what do you think of what do you think of the power of intention? Power of intention, the secret. What do you think about that?
It's one factor.
Like you really focus on something. Yeah, I agree. It's one factor. You really need to focus, but it still doesn't mean you're going to get it. That's what I mean to say.
Right.
Because it's not just the focus. There's other things going on, but the focus is a big one.
It's an important one, and we have the choice to choose where we want to focus. Until we start focusing on the wrong things, and even that starts to slip away from us.
Mm.
Right.
And it goes right back to, especially within Bhakti, we start to see there is not just a unseen force, but a benevolent unseen force, like an all-loving, all-good, unseen force that doesn't necessarily give me whatever I focus on, because then what I focus on may not be good for me because my desires are not purified yet. I desire things that sometimes will harm me or don't have the grandest vision of me in mind. I think they might. I think they will. I have a plan. If I got this, I'd be happy. So a benevolent force doesn't necessarily give me 3 servings of cotton candy, right? Because I want it.
But now the empiricist might say, well, now look where Raghunath has drifted into a realm of fantasy, where there's no empiric proof for what he's talking about. This is religious faith. It has absolutely no basis, right? You just started talking about this benevolent force.
Benevolent forces, yes.
But we could turn back to that empiricist saying, but look at your faith, right? Somehow you have this idea that there's no scientific proof for, that everything could be understood empirically. And therefore you've ruled out a possibility that there's a benevolent force. Without any scientific evidence, you've ruled out that possibility.
Right. I'm not even saying there definitely is a benevolent force, but at least you can't say there's definitely no benevolent force. How do you know? We go into this bhakti saying it could be. It could be. And I'm not just feeling it. This is like, first of all, it's sacred literature. It's the saints who went before us. They're sharing their revelations.
Well, that's where we're coming from. We're saying that there's a source of information that claims to have, knowledge beyond that of the senses, and that you can accept that knowledge from this source. Now the question is, now you got to put that source to the test and see how it holds up. Yeah.
And if some of these are too far-fetched, the benevolent force out there, then you go to those very basic, and this is keeping the basic things.
Am I my body? Am I my mind?
Am I my body? Am I my thoughts? I can change my thoughts. I can change my body, right? I understand it's good to regulate my senses. We had this conversation a few weeks ago. How, okay, what can I understand? The very basic things, and after a while, you start to realize, okay, I can build upon this. Then the sages recommend doing these things. The Bhagavatam recommends doing all these things. And then they feed you a little bit more. Okay, you get that? You get controlling the senses. You get controlling the mind. You get your choices influence you. Now try mantra meditation. And you start to have realizations about that. Then they start to add.
And you wouldn't have if you didn't do the first part, right? If you didn't control the senses.
If you didn't control the senses, you'll get less insight.
Yeah.
Now, stand in front of the deities. A whole nother thing. Like, what does that have to do with control your senses? Stand in front of these giant marble dolls? Yeah.
Well, if you want to perceive everything, here's the premise that Bhagavatam's putting down. If you want to understand everything, it's ultimately only revealed when your attitude is correct. And ultimately
that's another thing. It's not just like I can't expect the universe to start revealing itself to me because I'm demanding it. Because the universe just isn't a big blob. The universe is a being. It's very interesting. And how do you get beings to reveal? Like, if I want to understand Kaustubha, I can't just say, you better start revealing your parts of your intimate self to me now. I can't force it out of you, right? But through love,
okay,
you will share everything.
And with that, I will read an excerpt from the purport to text 20 that we just read. The Prabhupada says, the devotees of the Lord. Start queuing up the music, Raghunath, because this is.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. He says.
How did that go by so fast?
But Prabhupada, just right to your point, Raghunath. Prabhupada wrote, the devotees of the Lord who are transcendental to the above-mentioned 3 modes of material nature can see the all-blissful transcendental form of the Lord with their vision of love in the attitude of pure devotional service. So we began with Narada saying, I see you, empirically I see you, Brahma, as the creator. You must be the ultimate. Brahma says, no, there's a being that's not perceivable to you now, that's behind everything. But ultimately, the way that one understands that being, one sees that being, one perceives that being, it can't be done with the material senses. They're limited. They don't extend far enough, but they can be perceived when the heart becomes, when the heart manifests pure love for God. Then it's all revealed. All right.
There you go. There you go. It's through love the universe reveals itself to us. We get some inside peek. What's going on back there? Hey, thanks to everybody for joining us. And check this out. If you go to Raghunath.yoga and go to the pilgrimage/Wisdom of the Sages tab, we are doing a Wisdom of the Sages retreat in Cali, Colombia at our friend's ashram, January 19th to 30th. I'm going to be there. Kaustubha's going to be there. Mara's going to be there. And we're hoping all of you are going to be there, but it actually can't be all of you because spaces are limited. So if you want to get away from the winter wherever you are and meet us in Colombia, it's a beautiful place. There's peacocks, there's parrots, there's waterfalls, there's bhakti, there's delicious vegetarian food. What else do they have there? What other magical beasts do they have there around the equator?
Beasts, you say?
Yeah, magical birds, beasts.
Well, just there on
Fairies.
their property, they have a horse, they have
They have a
dogs,
horse.
they have those macaw parrots, they got
A
peacocks.
zebra.
They don't have a
live
zebra.
there.
They don't have a
Zebras
zebra.
don't live there.
No.
Tiny little zebras.
They got a lot of little creatures that you hear at night, frogs and things like that. There's a lot of noise
Night
at
frogs.
night.
That's not going to sell the retreat, frogs.
Sorry.
They have these exotic rainbow frogs with horns
But they got really sweet people down there
and
too.
little human hands. Thanks everybody for joining us late in the game.